Captain Lee Hyun rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the control panel of the Seoul Dawn. The cargo ship hummed quietly through space, carrying medical supplies and food to the outer colonies. It was not an exciting job, but it paid well and kept him and his crew busy. "Captain, we need to stop for fuel soon," said Kim Yuna from her seat at the navigation console. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic display, checking their route. "The nearest station is Kepler 442b. It should take about 2 hours to reach." Hyun nodded. "Good. Tell Daeho to prepare the fuel connections. I want to make this stop quick and get back on schedule." Park Daeho, their engineer, looked up from his repair work. "The hyperdrive is making strange noises again, Captain. I should check it while we refuel." "How long do you need?" "Maybe 3 hours if I can find the right parts at the station." Hyun sighed. Delays cost money, but a broken hyperdrive would cost them much more. "Fine. Do what you need to do." Choi Mina, their medical officer, was reading reports on her tablet. "Captain, I am seeing strange news from the Outer Rim territories. Several mining colonies have gone completely silent in the past month." "Pirates?" Hyun asked. "No, sir. The reports say there were no distress calls, no signs of fighting. The colonies just stopped all communication suddenly." Hyun frowned. Space was dangerous, and colonies failed for many reasons. Equipment broke down. Asteroids hit, or people simply left for better opportunities. But complete silence from multiple colonies was unusual. 2 hours later, the Seoul Dawn approached Kepler 442b. The mining station looked normal from the outside, but something felt wrong. Usually, the space around these stations was busy with ships coming and going. Today, only a few small vessels floated near the docking ports. "Strange," Yuna said. "The station traffic control is not answering our calls." "Keep trying," Hyun ordered. "Maybe their communications are down." Finally, a voice came through the speakers. It sounded scared and rushed. "Seoul Dawn, this is station. Control, dock at Port 7 immediately. Do not delay." "Why the hurry?" Hyun asked. "Just dock quickly and get inside. I will explain when you arrive." The docking process was smooth, but Hyun noticed that the station workers moved with unusual speed. They secured the Seoul Dawn and connected the fuel lines faster than he had ever seen. Inside the station, the halls were crowded with aliens of many different species. Most looked frightened and carried bags as if they were preparing to leave. Quickly, the air buzzed with nervous conversation in dozens of languages. "What is happening here?" Hyun asked a station worker. The worker, a tall blue-skinned alien, looked around nervously before speaking. "Refugees," he whispered. "They started arriving 3 days ago, all from different colonies in the outer sectors." Hyun and his crew made their way to the main administrative office. Behind a large desk sat Vel Thornwing, the station administrator. He was a bird-like alien from the Keth species, with bright yellow feathers that were now dull with worry. "Captain Lee," Vel Thornwing said, his voice shaking. "Thank goodness you are here. We need every ship we can get." "For what?" Hyun asked. Vel Thornwing activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing destroyed settlements, twisted metal, and empty colonies. "The refugees call it the Void Stalker. It has been moving through the outer rim, destroying everything in its path." Mina stepped closer to examine the images. "These look like complete destruction. What kind of weapon does this?" "That is the problem," Vel Thornwing said. "It is not a weapon, it is alive." The images changed, showing security footage from one of the destroyed colonies. The video was grainy and full of static, but it showed something massive moving through space. It was too large to see completely, but parts of it looked like black armor with glowing red lights. "How big is it?" Daeho asked. "Our best estimates say it is the size of a small moon. Maybe bigger." Hyun studied the footage carefully. "Where did it come from? What does it want?" "Nobody knows," Vel Thornwing said. "The refugees say it appears without warning, destroys everything, and then disappears. No survivors, no messages, no demands. Just complete destruction." Yuna pulled up a star chart on her portable device. "According to these reports, it is moving toward the more populated systems." That is why we need every ship to help evacuate people, Vel Thornwing explained. The refugees need transport to safer areas. Hyun looked at his crew. They had signed up to transport cargo, not to rescue people from monsters, but leaving innocent beings to die was not something he could do. We can take about 50 passengers, he said finally. Thank you, Captain. The ships will start loading in 1 hour. As they prepared to leave, Daeho finished his work on the hyperdrive. Good news, Captain. The hyperdrive is working perfectly now. Bad news. Long-range sensors are picking up something big approaching the station. Hyun felt his blood turn cold. How big? Very big, sir. And it matches the energy signature from the refugee reports. Vel Thornwing received the same sensor data at his desk. His yellow feathers turned almost white with fear. It found us. The Voidstalker is here. Panic spread through the station like wildfire. Aliens ran through the halls, grabbing their belongings and rushing toward the docking ports. Ship engines started warming up as captains prepared for emergency departure. Captain, we should leave now, Yuna said urgently. Hyun watched the chaos around them. Families were being separated. Children cried as adults pushed through the crowds. Many people would not make it to the ships in time. No, he said quietly. Load as many people as we can. We are not leaving anyone behind. Sir, if that thing is as dangerous as they say, then these people need our help even more. The Sol Dawn became a rescue ship. Hyun and his crew worked quickly to pack refugees into every available space. The cargo holds filled with frightened aliens of all shapes and sizes. Mina set up a medical station to help those who were injured or sick from their journey. Outside, through the station windows, they could see something massive blocking out the stars. It was so large that it seemed impossible. Red lights glowed across its surface like thousands of evil eyes watching them. Captain, Daeho called from the engine room. We are at maximum capacity. Any more people and we will not be able to take off. But there were still more refugees waiting. Hyun made a decision that would change his life forever. Instead of leaving immediately, he ordered his crew to make multiple trips, ferrying people to escape pods that could reach safer systems. The Voidstalker was getting closer, and time was running out. But Lee Hyun refused to abandon anyone to face the terror alone. He had no idea that this choice would soon bring him face to face with the most dangerous creature in the galaxy, or that a simple act of kindness would change everything. The lights in the station flickered as something enormous moved past the windows. Captain Lee Hyun pressed his face against the thick glass and felt his breath catch in his throat. The Voidstalker was unlike anything he had ever imagined. The creature stretched across space like a living mountain. Its body was covered in thick black armor that seemed to absorb light. Thousands of red eyes dotted its surface, each one the size of a building. They glowed like burning coals in the darkness of space. The creature moved without making any sound, but Hyun could feel vibrations through the station walls. How is something that big even alive? Yuna whispered beside him. Before anyone could answer, the Voidstalker opened sections of its armor. Smaller creatures poured out like angry insects from a hive. Each one was still larger than a fighter ship, but compared to their parent, they looked tiny. Hunter organisms, Vel Thornwing said, his voice shaking. The refugees warned us about these. They do the actual killing while the big one watches. The hunters moved fast through space, using some kind of natural propulsion. They had multiple limbs that ended in razor-sharp claws. Their bodies were streamlined for speed, and they had the same glowing red eyes as their massive parent. Station alarms began blaring. The security chief, a tough-looking alien with 4 arms, spoke over the communication system. All defensive positions, prepare to engage the enemy. All civilian ships, evacuate immediately. Hyun watched as the station's defense guns opened. Fire. Bright energy beams lanced out toward the approaching hunters. A few shots hit their targets, but the creature's armor was incredibly tough. Most of the hunters kept coming, barely slowed down by the weapons. Our guns are not strong enough, Daeho said, watching the battle through the sensor displays. Those things are built like tanks. The first wave of hunters reached the station. They tore through the outer hull like it was made of paper. Emergency lights flashed red as atmosphere vented into space. The defensive guns fell silent one by one as the creatures destroyed them. "We need to go now," Yuna urged. "The Sol Dawn is loaded with refugees. We can save the people we have." Hyun looked around the docking bay. There were still dozens of aliens waiting for rescue. Families huddled together, holding their children close. An elderly Veltar sat alone on a bench, too weak to push through the crowds. "One more trip," Hyun decided. "Load everyone we can into the shuttle. I will pilot it myself." "Captain, that is too dangerous," Mina protested. "Let me come with you." "No. If something happens to me, you need to get these refugees to safety. That is an order." Hyun ran to the station's small transport shuttle. It was designed for moving cargo between ships, not for carrying passengers, but it would have to work. He packed 20 more refugees inside, ignoring weight limits and safety protocols. As the shuttle lifted off from the station, Hyun could see the battle raging around them. The hunters had broken through the main hull and were now inside the station. He could hear weapons fire and screaming through the radio. "Sol Dawn, this is the captain," he called over the communication system. "Prepare for emergency departure. As soon as I dock, we leave immediately." "Understood, Captain," came Yuna's voice. "But hurry, the big creature is moving closer." The shuttle flew through debris and floating wreckage. One of the hunters noticed the small ship and changed direction to intercept it. The creature moved incredibly fast, covering the distance in seconds. "This is not good," Hyun muttered, pushing the shuttle's engines to maximum power. The hunter caught up just as Hyun reached the Sol Dawn. Its claws scraped against the shuttle's hull, leaving deep scratches in the metal. Hyun spun the shuttle around, using its momentum to break free from the creature's grip. "Docking bay is open," Daeho's voice crackled through the radio. "Come in fast." Hyun guided the damaged shuttle into the Sol Dawn's small docking bay. Before the shuttle had completely stopped, refugees were jumping out and running toward the passenger areas. The hunter that had chased them slammed into the station nearby, sending vibrations through both ships. "Everyone aboard?" Hyun called out as he ran toward the bridge. "Yes, sir," Mina reported. "All refugees are secured." "Then let's get out of here." The Sol Dawn pulled away from the station just as more hunters arrived. The small cargo ship was not designed for speed, but it was faster than the massive creatures chasing them. Slowly, they gained distance from the battle. Behind them, the station was dying. Hunters swarmed through its corridors while the Void Stalker watched with its thousands of eyes. Emergency pods launched from the station, carrying the last survivors away from the destruction. "Captain," Yuna called from the navigation station, "I am reading multiple ships on our sensors. Other vessels are trying to escape." "Good. The more people who get away, the better." But their escape was not over yet. As the Sol Dawn moved toward the edge of the system, one of the hunters broke away from the main attack. It was heading straight for them. "Why is it chasing us?" Daeho asked. "We are just a cargo ship." "Maybe it thinks we are a threat," Mina suggested. The hunter was faster than their ship. It would catch them before they could reach safe hyperspace distance. Hyun made a quick decision. "I am going to try to lose it in the asteroid field near the fourth planet. Captain, that is very dangerous with so many passengers aboard." "More dangerous than letting that thing catch us?" The Sol Dawn dove toward the asteroid field. Large rocks floated in space like a deadly maze. Hyun used his years of flying experience to weave between them, hoping the hunter would give up the chase. Instead, the creature followed them into the field. It was amazingly agile for something so large, dodging asteroids with ease. Its multiple limbs helped it change direction quickly. "It is still gaining on us," Yuna reported. An asteroid the size of a building blocked their path. Hyun guided the ship around it, but the hunter took a more direct route. It used its claws to smash through the rock, sending fragments flying in all directions. "This thing is incredibly strong," Daeho said with amazement. The chase continued deeper into the asteroid field. The Sol Dawn's engines were running at maximum power, but it was not enough. The hunter was only a few hundred meters behind them now. Then disaster struck. A piece of asteroid debris hit their rear engine, causing it to shut down. The ship slowed dramatically, and the hunter closed the remaining distance in seconds. The creature grabbed the Soul Dawn with its powerful claws. Metal groaned under the pressure as it began pulling the ship toward its mouth. Through the windows, Hyun could see rows of teeth that looked like sword blades. "Everyone hold on," he called over the ship's intercom. "This is going to be rough." But, instead of being crushed immediately, something strange happened. The hunter seemed to hesitate. It held the Soul Dawn firmly but did not bite down. Its glowing red eyes studied the ship as if it was trying to decide something. "Why is it not attacking?" Mina asked. Hyun stared into one of the creature's massive eyes. There was intelligence there, not just animal hunger. The hunter was thinking, making choices. This was not just a mindless killing machine. "I think it is curious about us," he said quietly. The hunter's grip loosened slightly. It turned the Soul Dawn around, examining it from different angles. The refugees huddled in the passenger areas, terrified but still alive. Then, as suddenly as it had grabbed them, the hunter released the ship. It backed away and watched them float in space. Its head tilted to one side like a confused animal. "The main creature is calling them back," Yuna observed, checking her sensors. "All the hunters are returning to the Void Stalker." The hunter that had caught them looked between the Soul Dawn and its distant parent. It made a sound that came through, the ship's hull almost like a whimper. Then it turned and flew away, leaving them alone in the asteroid field. "That was the strangest thing I have ever seen," Daeho said as he worked to restart their damaged engine. Hyun watched the hunter disappear into the distance. Something had happened during those few moments when they stared at each other. Some kind of connection had been made. He did not understand it, but he had the feeling that this encounter was far from over. The Soul Dawn limped away from the destroyed station, carrying its cargo of refugees to safety. But unknown to Captain Lee, Hyun, he had just made the most dangerous friend in the galaxy. 3 weeks had passed since the attack on Kepler 442b. Captain Lee Hyun tried to forget about the strange moment with the hunter creature, but the memory stayed with him. Every time he closed his eyes, he could see those glowing red eyes staring at him with what looked like curiosity. The Soul Dawn was now approaching New Harvest, a peaceful farming world known for growing food for dozens of colonies. The refugees from the mining station had been safely delivered to other worlds, and Hyun hoped to return to normal cargo runs. "Captain, we have a problem," Yuna called from her navigation station. Her voice was tight with worry. "What kind of problem?" "Long-range sensors are picking up a massive energy signature. It matches the readings we got from the Void Stalker." Hyun felt his heart sink. "How far away?" "About 6 hours at current speed. But Captain, there is something strange about the readings." "Strange how?" Yuna pulled up a holographic display showing the sensor data. "The creature is not moving toward New Harvest. It is just sitting there in space like it is waiting for something." Daeho looked up from his engineering station. "Maybe it is sleeping?" "Things that big do not sleep in open space," Mina said. She had been studying everything she could find about the Void Stalker attacks. "According to the reports, they always attack immediately after arriving." Hyun studied the sensor readings. The creature was holding position just outside the New Harvest system. It was close enough to attack, but was not doing anything threatening. "Send a message to New Harvest Control," he ordered. "Warn them about the creature, but tell them it is not attacking yet." The response came back quickly. New Harvest Control was panicking. They had heard about the destroyed colonies and were preparing to evacuate their entire population. Ships were already launching from the planet's surface, loaded with scared families. "Captain," Yuna said, "I am getting another strange reading. Something small is detaching from the main creature." On the display, they could see a tiny dot separating from the massive Void Stalker. It was heading directly toward the Soul Dawn. "Is it one of the hunters?" Mina asked. "Yes, but just one, and it is not moving like it wants to attack." Hyun watched the approaching dot with growing amazement. "I think it is the same one, the one that caught us in the asteroid field." "How can you tell?" Daeho asked. "I just know." The hunter organism approached slowly, almost carefully. Instead of rushing, At them like before, it stopped a safe distance away from the Soul Dawn. It floated in space, waiting. What does it want? Yuna wondered. Hyun made a decision that surprised even himself. Open a communication channel. To that thing? Yes. The channel opened with static and strange sounds. Then they heard something that made them all freeze. It was a low, rumbling noise, but it almost sounded like the creature was trying to communicate. Can it talk? Mina asked. I do not think so, but it is definitely trying to tell us something. The creature moved closer to the Soul Dawn. Through the bridge windows they could see it clearly now. It was about the size of a small fighter ship, with multiple limbs ending in sharp claws. Its body was covered in the same black armor as its giant parent, and red eyes glowed along its head. But there was something different about this one. Hyun noticed scars on its armor that he remembered from their first encounter. This was definitely the same creature. It followed us, he said quietly. All this way, it followed us. But why? Yuna asked. Hyun thought back to that moment in the asteroid field when the creature had stared at him. There had been something almost human in those alien eyes. Curiosity, maybe even loneliness. I think it is lonely, he said. The others looked at him like he was crazy. Captain, that thing is a killing machine. Daeho protested. It destroyed an entire station. No, the big one destroyed the station. This one just followed orders. But when it caught us, it chose not to kill us. That means it can make its own decisions. The creature moved even closer. It was now just a few meters from their hull. Its claws scraped gently against the ship's outer wall, not trying to break in, but almost like it was knocking. It wants to come inside, Mina said with disbelief. Absolutely not, Yuna said firmly. That thing could tear us apart in seconds. But Hyun was remembering something else. During their escape from the mining station, he had been eating an emergency ration bar when the creature first saw him. The memory was fuzzy because of all the chaos, but he thought he remembered dropping some food. I have an idea, he said, but you are all going to think I am insane. He went to the ship's supply room and grabbed several protein bars from there, emergency rations, then he walked to the airlock. Captain, what are you doing? Mina called after him. Something stupid, probably. Hyun put on his spacesuit and entered the airlock. His crew watched nervously from the bridge as he cycled through and stepped out into space. The hunter creature was waiting for him, floating, motionless just outside the ship. Up close, the creature was even more impressive. Its armor looked incredibly strong, and its claws were sharp enough to cut through steel. But its eyes were focused on him with what looked like intelligence and curiosity. Hello there, Hyun said, feeling foolish for talking to something that probably could not understand him. The creature tilted its head, listening to his voice through the radio transmission. Hyun held up one of the protein bars. The creature's eyes focused on it immediately. Slowly, carefully, he tossed the bar toward the creature. The hunter caught the bar with one of its smaller limbs. It brought the food close to what Hyun assumed was its mouth and seemed to smell it. Then it ate the bar in one quick bite. The creature looked at Hyun and made that rumbling sound again. This time it sounded almost like purring. You remember me, Hyun said with amazement. You remember sharing food? He threw another protein bar. The creature caught it eagerly and ate it just as quickly. Then something incredible happened. The creature moved closer and very gently touched Hyun's helmet. With one of its claws, it was careful not to damage the glass or hurt him. Captain, you need to get back inside, Yuna's voice crackled over the radio. That thing's parent might come looking for it. But Hyun was fascinated by what was happening. This deadly creature was acting almost like a friendly animal. It was showing affection and trust. I think it wants to stay with us, he told his crew. Captain, we cannot keep a space monster as a pet, Daeho protested. Why not? It is not hurting anyone. And look at the big picture. Every place this creature goes, the Void Stalker attacks stop. Maybe having it with us will protect other colonies. The creature seemed to understand that they were talking about it. It moved back and forth between the Soul Dawn and the distant Void Stalker, like it was trying to make a decision. Finally, it settled close to their ship and made a series of clicking sounds. The message was clear. It wanted to stay. "The big creature is moving away," Yuna reported from inside the ship. "It is leaving the system." "But this one is staying," Mina observed. "It chose us over its own kind." Hyun floated in space next to the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, feeding it protein bars and watching it act like a curious pet. Nothing in his years of space travel had prepared him for this moment. "What should we call it?" he asked his crew. Yuna thought for a moment. "How about Kuro? It means black. And it is simple enough. Kuro it is." As if understanding its new name, the creature made a happy rumbling sound. It had found a new family, and the Sol Dawn had gained the most unusual crew member in space. But Hyun had no idea that his act of kindness would soon make him the most wanted man in the galaxy, or that more surprises were waiting in the darkness of space. 2 months had passed since Kuro joined the crew of the Sol Dawn. The black hunter creature had become surprisingly easy to live with. It floated alongside their ship during travel and seemed content to eat protein bars and watch the stars go by. Captain Lee Hyun was amazed at how intelligent Kuro proved to be. The creature could understand simple hand signals and had even learned to help with basic ship maintenance. Its powerful claws were perfect for handling heavy cargo, and it seemed to enjoy having tasks to perform. But their unusual partnership had created new problems. Most space stations refused to let them dock when they saw Kuro. News reports were calling Hyun the man who tamed death itself. Some people thought he was a hero, while others believed he was dangerously insane. "Captain, we have a message from Dr. Song Ji-woo," Yuna announced from the communication station. Hyun smiled. Ji-woo was an old friend from his academy days who had become a famous scientist. She studied alien life forms at a research station in the Outer Rim. "Put her through." Ji-woo's face appeared on the main screen. She was a small woman with kind eyes and graying hair. "Hyun, I have been following the news about you and your unusual friend. I would very much like to study this creature." "I am not sure that is a good idea, Ji-woo. Kuro is not just some animal we can poke and prod." "I understand your concern. But think about what we could learn. This creature might hold the key to understanding the Void Stalkers. We could prevent future attacks." Hyun looked through the bridge window at Kuro, who was floating peacefully beside the ship. "Where is your research station?" "Sector 7 Alpha. It is completely isolated, so there would be no danger to other people." After discussing it with his crew, Hyun agreed to visit Ji-woo's station. Kuro seemed curious about the idea of meeting new humans, though it stayed close to the Sol Dawn during the entire journey. The research station was small but well equipped. Ji-woo met them at the docking port with her team of assistants. She watched in amazement as Kuro gently guided itself through the station's corridors, being careful not to damage anything with its claws. "Incredible," she whispered. "Look how it moves. It is being deliberately careful around us." Over the next several days, Ji-woo ran every test she could think of. She scanned Kuro with medical equipment, analyzed samples of its armor, and studied its behavior patterns. The creature cooperated with everything, seeming to understand that the tests were not meant to hurt it. "The results are fascinating," Ji-woo told Hyun as they reviewed her findings. "This creature is far more complex than anyone imagined." "What do you mean?" "Look at these brain scans. Kuro has intelligence levels comparable to higher mammals, maybe even approaching human levels in some areas. But there is something else." Ji-woo pulled up another set of data. "These are genetic markers I found in its DNA. They suggest that Kuro's species was not always predatory. Millions of years ago, they were symbiotic creatures that worked together with other life forms." "Symbiotic how?" "They helped other species survive and grow stronger. In return, those species provided food and companionship. But something changed. They evolved into solitary hunters." Hyun thought about this information. "So when I shared food with Kuro, I triggered some ancient memory?" "Exactly. Your simple act of kindness awakened something that had been sleeping in its genetic code for millions of years. But Jiwoo had discovered something even more important. Hyun, I need to show you something else. Kuro has been trying to communicate with you. She led him to a special room where Kuro was resting. The creature's hide was covered in patterns of bioluminescent lights that pulsed and shifted in complex sequences. It is not just pretty lights, Jiwoo explained. These patterns contain information. Kuro has been showing you images. Images of what? Jiwoo activated a computer program that translated the light patterns into holographic displays. Suddenly, the room filled with three-dimensional maps showing star systems, planets, and space routes. These are locations, she said excitedly. Kuro is showing you places where other Void Stalkers are planning to attack. The images changed, showing different, alien civilizations. Some looked peaceful, with beautiful cities and green planets. Others showed militaristic societies with massive weapons and conquered worlds. The Void Stalkers are not just random destroyers, Jiwoo realized. They are targeting specific civilizations. But why these ones? Hyun studied the images carefully. He noticed that the peaceful civilizations were left alone, while the aggressive ones were marked for destruction. They are gardeners. What? Think about it. The Void Stalkers have been around for millions of years. They watch civilizations grow and develop. When a species becomes too violent or destructive, they remove it to protect the rest of the galaxy. Jiwoo stared at the holographic displays with new understanding. They are maintaining balance, preventing any one species from becoming too powerful and wiping out everyone else. But that means they are planning to attack someone soon. Hyun said, pointing to one of the marked civilizations. The Drak Empire. The Drak were a militaristic species that had been conquering peaceful worlds for decades. Their empire was growing rapidly, and they had recently started threatening human colonies. If the Void Stalkers attack the Drak, thousands of innocent civilians will die along with the military, Mina said. She had been listening to their conversation from the doorway. We have to warn them, Hyun decided. Captain, the Drak Empire will not listen to warnings from a human cargo captain, Yuna pointed out. Then we warn everyone else, every peaceful species in their path. Jiwoo looked worried. Hyun, if you start interfering with the Void Stalkers' plans, you could make yourself a target. Maybe. But I cannot let innocent people die when I have the power to save them. Kuro had been listening to their conversation. The creature moved closer to Hyun and gently touched his shoulder with one claw. Its bioluminescent patterns shifted to show new images. These pictures showed other hunter creatures like Kuro, but they were alone and looked sad. They floated through empty space with no purpose except to follow orders from their giant parents. I think Kuro is telling us that other hunters are unhappy too, Jiwoo interpreted. They want what Kuro has found, companionship and purpose beyond just destroying things. Hyun made a decision that would change his life forever. Then we give it to them. We warn the threatened civilizations and try to save as many lives as possible. Maybe we can even find a way to make peace between the Void Stalkers and the rest of the galaxy. That is incredibly dangerous, Taeho said. The Galactic Council will think you are working with the enemy. Let them think whatever they want. Kuro is not our enemy. It is our friend, and friends help each other. Kuro made its happy rumbling sound and created a light pattern that looked almost like a smile. The creature had found not just a new family but a new purpose. Instead of being a weapon of destruction, it could become a bridge between species. But as they prepared to leave Jiwoo's research station, none of them realized that their conversations were being monitored. The Galactic Council had been watching Hyun ever since news of his partnership with Kuro became public. Soon he would discover that doing the right thing often came with a very high price. The most powerful governments in the galaxy were about to declare him their most wanted criminal, and the only thing standing between him and capture was a creature that the entire universe feared. The real adventure was just beginning. The trouble started 3 weeks after leaving Dr. Song Jiwoo's research station. Captain Lee Hyun had successfully warned 4 different civilizations about planned Void Stalker attacks, and each time, the massive creatures had simply moved on to find other targets. The Galactic Council was not happy about this development. Sol Dawn, this is Galactic Council Enforcement Ship Meridian, came a stern voice over their communication system. You are ordered to surrender the hostile alien creature and report for questioning immediately. Hyun looked at Kuro, who was floating peacefully beside the bridge window. The creature had been showing him more star charts, trying to help save other innocent worlds from destruction. Meridian, this is Captain Lee Hyun. The creature is not hostile, and I will not surrender a member of my crew. Captain Hyun, you are harboring a weapon of mass destruction. This is your final warning. 3 large warships appeared on their sensors surrounding the Sol Dawn. Each one was 10 times larger than their small cargo vessel and packed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Captain, what do we do? Yuna asked nervously. Before Hyun could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. More ships were approaching fast from the opposite direction. Those are Drak Empire vessels, Daeho reported from his station. 5 heavy cruisers and a battleship. Why are the Drak here? Mina wondered. The answer came over the radio in a harsh, growling voice. Human ship, you have interfered with our expansion plans by warning our targets. The Drak Empire has placed a bounty of 10 million credits on your head. Hyun found himself trapped between 2 enemy fleets. The Galactic Council wanted to capture Kuro for study, while the Drak Empire wanted to kill them all for ruining their conquest plans. This is not good, he said quietly. Kuro seemed to sense the danger. The creature's bioluminescent patterns flashed in rapid, urgent sequences. It was trying to communicate something important. What is it trying to say? Yuna asked. Hyun watched the light patterns carefully. Over the past months, he had gotten better at understanding Kuro's visual language. I think it is calling for help. Help from what? Their question was answered when space around them began to ripple and bend. 3 massive shapes emerged from hyperspace, each one the size of a small moon. Void Stalkers had arrived. The Galactic Council ships immediately powered up their weapons, preparing to fight. The Drak vessels did the same, but they looked much less confident than before. All human vessels retreat immediately, ordered the Council fleet commander. We will handle the Void Stalkers. But instead of attacking, something incredible happened. Each of the 3 Void Stalkers released a single hunter creature just like Kuro. The 3 new hunters flew directly toward the Sol Dawn, ignoring both enemy fleets completely. More of them are coming, Daeho said with amazement. The 3 new hunters arranged themselves around the Sol Dawn in a protective formation. They were slightly different from Kuro, with different scar patterns and color variations in their armor. But they moved with the same intelligence and purpose. Kuro communicated with the newcomers using rapid flashes of light. The conversation looked complex, as if they were sharing information about their experiences. I think Kuro is telling them about us, Hyun realized. About friendship and cooperation. The lead Drak battleship opened fire on the nearest Void Stalker, hitting it with a massive energy beam. The giant creature barely noticed the attack, but its hunter responded immediately. It flew at incredible speed toward the Drak ship, dodging defensive fire with impossible grace. The hunter is not trying to destroy the ship, Yuna observed. It is targeting specific systems. She was right. Instead of tearing the battleship apart, the hunter used precise strikes to disable the ship's weapons and engines. The Drak vessel was left helpless but intact. They are showing mercy, Mina said with wonder. That is not what the reports described. The other Drak ships stopped firing, clearly afraid to provoke further attacks. The Galactic Council fleet held their position, but did not engage, probably trying to understand what they were seeing. Sol Dawn, this is Admiral Chen of the Council fleet, came a new voice over the radio. Explain what is happening here. Hyun took a deep breath. Admiral, these creatures are not our enemies. They are trying to protect the galaxy from species that become too aggressive and destructive. By destroying entire civilizations, by removing threats before they can harm peaceful worlds, but they do not want to kill innocent people. That is why they are working with us now. One of the new hunters approached the Sol Dawn's bridge window. Like Kuro, it studied the humans inside with obvious intelligence and curiosity. How many of them are there? Admiral Chen asked. Hyun looked at Kuro, who created a complex light pattern showing the vast scope of the galaxy. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They have been watching over the galaxy for millions of years. And now they want to work with humans? Not just humans. Any species that shows kindness and cooperation instead of conquest and destruction. The Drak fleet commander's voice crackled over the communication system, full of anger and fear. This is unacceptable. The Drak Empire will not be threatened by monsters and their human allies. The disabled battleship suddenly launched a small fighter craft. The pilot was apparently planning a suicide attack on the Sol Dawn, hoping to kill Hyun and break up the alliance. But the Drak pilot never reached his target. All 4 hunters moved at once, surrounding the small fighter with perfect coordination. Instead of destroying it, they gently guided it back to the battleship and released it unharmed. They could have killed that pilot instantly, Admiral Chen observed. But they chose not to. Because killing is not their goal, Hyun explained. Protection is their goal. They only destroy when there is no other choice. The 3 Void Stalkers began moving away from the battle site, their job apparently complete. But their hunters remained with the Sol Dawn, forming a small pack around the cargo ship. Captain Hyun, Admiral Chen said after a long pause, the Galactic Council would like to offer you a position as official liaison to the Void Stalkers. What does that mean? It means instead of being hunted as a criminal, you would be working for galactic peace. Your job would be to help prevent conflicts before they require Void Stalker intervention. Hyun looked around at his crew. Yuna was smiling with excitement. Daeho looked proud. Mina was already planning medical aid for worlds that might be threatened. What about the Drak Empire? He asked. That is now a council problem. We will handle their expansion through diplomatic means. Your interference actually gave us the excuse we needed to step in. The Drak fleet was already retreating, clearly unwilling to face both the Council and the Void Stalkers. Their expansion plans would have to wait. I accept the position, Hyun said finally. But my crew and I work as a team. And the hunters are our partners, not our weapons. Agreed. As the Sol Dawn prepared to leave the battle site, now escorted by 4 hunter creatures, Hyun realized that his life had changed completely. He was no longer a simple cargo captain. He had become the bridge between humanity and the most powerful force in the galaxy. Kuro floated beside the bridge window, its bioluminescent patterns showing what looked like happiness. It had found not just one human friend, but a whole pack of creatures like itself, who wanted something more than endless hunting. Where do we go first? Yuna asked. Hyun studied the star charts that Kuro had been showing him. There were so many worlds that needed protection, so many conflicts that could be prevented before they started. Everywhere, he said simply. We have a galaxy to protect. The small pack of hunters pulsed with synchronized light patterns, as if they were singing together in the darkness of space. For the first time in millions of years, they had found a purpose beyond destruction. They were guardians now, working alongside the strange species that had shown them kindness when everyone else showed only fear. 6 months had passed since Captain Lee Hyun became the official liaison to the Void Stalkers. The Sol Dawn, now accompanied by a small fleet of hunter creatures, had prevented 17 conflicts and saved millions of lives across the galaxy. But their greatest challenge was about to begin. Captain, we are receiving an emergency transmission from Earth Defense Command, Yuna announced from her station. Her face was pale with worry. Put it through. The holographic display showed Admiral Park, the commander of Earth Space Forces. Behind him, alarm lights flashed red throughout the command center. Captain Hyun, we need your help immediately. The Drak Empire has built a planet-killer weapon, and they are aiming it at Earth. Hyun felt his blood turn cold. How long do we have? 18 hours, maybe less. The weapon is some kind of massive energy cannon that can destroy a world from across a solar system. Our fleets cannot get close enough to stop it. Where is the weapon located? In the asteroid belt of the Drak home system. It is protected by their entire remaining fleet. Hyun looked through the bridge window at their escort of hunter creatures. Over the months, their pack had grown to 8 hunters, each one bonded to different members of his crew. Kuro had become larger and more intelligent, now able to understand complex human speech and even basic writing. "Admiral, I will do everything I can," Hyun promised, "but I cannot guarantee success." "Captain, you are Earth's only hope. Our intelligence suggests that if they succeed in destroying Earth, they plan to target every human colony in the galaxy." After the transmission ended, Hyun gathered his crew for an emergency meeting. The hunters floated outside the ship, their bioluminescent patterns showing concern and determination. "This is bigger than anything we have faced before," he told them. "The Drak have decided to commit genocide against the entire human race." "Can the hunters stop a planet-killer weapon?" Daeho asked. "I do not know. We have never tested their abilities against something that large." Dr. Song Ji-woo's voice came over the communication system. She had been working with them as their science advisor. "Captain, I have been studying the weapon design that Earth intelligence provided. It is incredibly powerful, but it has one weakness." "What kind of weakness?" "The energy cannon requires a massive power core that takes several hours to charge between shots. If we can damage that core, the weapon will be useless." "How do we get close enough?" "The entire Drak fleet is protecting it." "That is where the hunters come in. According to my calculations, they are fast enough to avoid most defensive fire. But they would need to work together in perfect coordination." Hyun went outside in his spacesuit to talk directly with the hunters. Over the months, he had learned to understand their complex light-based language. "Friends," he said, using the simple word they had learned to associate with their relationship. "Humans are in danger. Bad Drak want to kill all humans." Kuro's patterns flashed with anger when it understood the threat. The other hunters responded similarly, their lights pulsing in aggressive colors. "Kuro, protect friends," the creature managed to say through the ship's translation system. Its language skills had improved dramatically. "This will be very dangerous," Hyun warned them. "Some of you might not survive." The hunters communicated among themselves in rapid flashes of light. Then Kuro spoke for all of them. "Friends worth danger. We fight together." The journey to the Drak home system took 12 hours at maximum hyperspace speed. When they arrived, Hyun was amazed by the size of the enemy force waiting for them. The planet-killer weapon was built into a massive asteroid that had been hollowed out and converted into a fortress. Hundreds of Drak warships surrounded it in defensive formations. Energy cannons and missile batteries covered every approach route. "It looks impossible," Yuna said quietly. But as they watched, more shapes began appearing around them. 3 giant void stalkers materialized from hyperspace, each one releasing multiple hunter creatures. Word of the threat to their human allies had spread, and the ancient guardians were responding. "How many hunters are there?" Mina asked in amazement. Hyun counted quickly. 23. Plus our 8 makes 31. Kuro's voice came through the translation system. "Big parents angry. Drak break galaxy law, try kill whole species." "Galaxy law?" "No species kill all of other species. Very bad. Parents must stop." The Drak fleet opened fire as soon as they detected the void stalkers. Energy beams and missiles filled space, but the hunters were incredibly fast and agile. They scattered in all directions, dodging defensive fire while closing in on their targets. Hyun watched in amazement as the hunters worked together like a single organism. They communicated through light flashes, coordinating their attacks with perfect timing. Some hunters distracted the defensive guns while others slipped through gaps in the enemy formation. "They are not trying to destroy the ships," Yuna observed. "They are disabling them." She was right. The hunters targeted engines and weapons systems, leaving the Drak crews alive but helpless. It was the same mercy they had shown during their first encounter with the Drak fleet. But the real challenge was the fortress itself. The planet-killer weapon was protected by energy shields and automated defense systems. Getting close enough to damage the power core would require incredible skill and courage. Kuro and 7 other hunters broke away from the main battle and flew directly toward the fortress. Defensive fire erupted around them like a deadly light show. 2 hunters were hit by energy beams and went spinning away, badly damaged but still alive. "They are not going to make it," Daeho said with worry. But the Soul Dawn was not just watching. Hyun had made his own plans. "Take us in," he ordered Yuna. "Full speed toward the fortress. Captain, that is suicide. Not if we time it right." The Soul Dawn flew straight into the heaviest defensive fire, drawing attention away from the hunters. Energy beams struck their shields, overloading the defensive systems and causing sparks to fly across the bridge. "Shields at 20%, Daeho reported. "Hold course." At the last moment, Yuna pulled the ship into a steep dive, passing just over the fortress surface. The maneuver gave Kuro and the other hunters the opening they needed. The hunters struck the power core simultaneously, their claws tearing through heavy armor and delicate machinery. Explosions rippled through the fortress as the planet-killer weapon lost power and began shutting down. "Target destroyed," came a report from one of the Drac commanders. His voice sounded defeated and afraid. The remaining Drac fleet stopped fighting and began retreating toward their home planet. The threat to Earth was over, but Hyun knew this was about more than just one battle. "This is Admiral Park," came a transmission from Earth. "Captain Hyun, you have saved not just our world but our entire species. How can we ever thank you?" Hyun looked around at his crew and their hunter allies. Mina was already treating the injured hunters with her medical knowledge. Daeho was helping repair damaged hunter armor using ship tools. Yuna was learning new light pattern languages from their alien friends. "You can thank us by building a better galaxy," he said finally. "The hunters have been protecting space for millions of years, but they have been doing it alone. Now they have partners who understand cooperation and kindness. What happens next?" Hyun studied the star charts that showed the locations of brewing conflicts across the galaxy. There were so many worlds that needed protection, so many species that could benefit from the partnership between humans and Voidstalkers. "Next, we expand the Guardian Corps. We train more humans to work with hunters. We prevent wars before they start and protect peaceful civilizations from aggressive ones." Kuro floated up to the bridge window, its bioluminescent patterns showing joy and satisfaction. The creature had grown even larger over the past months, now almost the size of a small ship itself. But its most important growth had been in intelligence and emotional understanding. "Friends safe," it said through the translation system. "Galaxy better now?" "Yes," Hyun agreed. "The galaxy is better because we learned to work together." As the Soul Dawn and its escort of hunter creatures prepared to leave the Drac system, Hyun received another transmission. This one came from the Galactic Council headquarters. "Captain Hyun, this is Council President Vel Ashkor. The actions you and your allies took today have changed everything. The Council wishes to establish the Guardian Corps as an official peacekeeping organization." "What would that mean?" Hyun asked. "It means funding, resources, and official authority to prevent conflicts across the galaxy. You would have access to the best ships, equipment, and personnel. Most importantly, you would have the legal right to intervene in situations before they become wars." Hyun looked at his crew again. They had all changed over the past months. Yuna had become an expert in alien communications and diplomacy. Daeho had learned to repair and modify hunter technology. Mina had developed new medical techniques that worked on both humans and alien species. They were no longer just cargo haulers. They had become something much more important. "We accept," he said, "but we do this our way. The hunters are not weapons or tools. They are partners and friends." "Agreed. The Council has learned much from watching your methods, Captain. Cooperation works better than conquest." 6 months later, the first Guardian Corps Academy opened on a neutral space station near the Galactic Center.